Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to 22 Panels. My guest today has been talked about a lot on 22 Panels. His book, Unflattening, is probably the one that I've recommended to more guests than any other book.
Thank you.
Um, and for that matter, I've been trying to match up schedules with Mr. Nick Sousanis since Karen Green was the seventh guest on this podcast. So you're going to be with great power number 307, I think, maybe 308. You could have been number eight, but we haven't
Hmm.
been able to work
Well,
schedules.
every 300 will.
um it is the second time that I've met you because you were kind enough to invite me to your symposium on comics for the deaf. What, last
Blind.
year?
Comics for the blind. I haven't
Blind. Yeah, I'm
I haven't
sorry.
done comics for the deaf. That would be
Comics for the deaf
easier.
is kind of easier,
It's
I
much
think.
easier. It's got its different challenges, but yeah.
Yeah, Comics for the Blind, which was super, super, super duper cool. And I've noticed that they're like, whether they're related or not, or it's just like along the lines of there being more audio books in general, there have been a lot more audio adaptations of comics in like the last year or two.
Yeah, it does seem like it. I don't know.
Yeah.
Very few of them are actually like, here's what's being published this month. Let's make an adaptation for
No, it's generally
accessibility.
the classic ones.
Yeah, it's more like a novelty thing, but
Right.
hopefully that will spur them to start doing the
Yeah.
accessibility part.
Yeah. So, God, I mean, if we're talking about like websites that I recommend to everybody, Spin, Weave, and Cut, I'm gonna throw it up on the air again. Weave, and Cut is it .com or .org?
.com.
.com,
Very
is
commercial.
it is Nick's website. And like, if you ever want to know anything about comics, but particularly about comics and education, it is a one top stop shop. Um, yeah, I don't even know. I don't, oh, you've got a mailing list. I don't know. I'm on the mailing list. I am on the mailing list. I'm on so many mailing lists, Nick. So I don't even know where to start because like I've been following along all of this. So, I'm going to start with unflattening because of that symposium, I have had to reread it and still am finding more things into it because until that symposium, and I kicked myself, I hadn't seen um the the like allegory for public education that immediately got brought up by other people.
Hmm.
I had thought of it as like if understanding comics is the comics 101 class, I thought of it as like the 400 level. Um so actually my biggest question, this is your PhD thesis. What is your PhD in, and like what did you pitch as your thesis? That would be an interesting
Sure.
question to go along with the book, and then I'll have you give
Yeah,
me. We'll go from
sure.
there. Yeah.
Sounds great. Yeah, thanks. Thanks so much for having me. Sorry it's been so long.
You're like working and parenting and whatnot. There's nothing to apologize for.
All right. All right. Well, onward. So yeah, I mean, I like the fact that people don't often know what my book is about. I guess I would dislike it if they didn't know what it was about and couldn't stand that fact. But it seems to be the case that people all think it's about something different. And I really, part of how I work, was really very early on in my return to comics as an adult was tried to drop the sort of here I am illustrating ideas and try to find metaphors that did what I wanted so I could bring more people in. Um, so when I came to doctoral school, I pitched that I was doing comics. I'd made some political comics just before that around the U.S. Presidential election and a comic on games and art for an exhibition we put on in Detroit. And in those pieces, I'd really, like I said, I'd shifted from narrative and shifted out of any kind of sort of illustrating clear ideas and tried to tried to find ways that people could, you didn't have to know what I was talking about to read it because it could apply to
Right.
what you were talking about. And it's led to me to some weird places. I'll be interviewed by business people about the book saying, oh, yeah, this is a metaphor for this. I went to Columbia's School of Education, Teachers College. I have a doctorate in education, interdisciplinary studies in education. I kind of hung out with English ed and arts education and a couple other groups like that. So it's sort of an odd background. Um, but yeah, it was for my doctorate, and I really I'd been a comics maker as a kid. I published my own superhero comic as a not published, printed and sold. I don't know, published is quite the right word, but I had access to a photocopier. So, but coming to school, it's not really the kind of thing you could study when I was a kid or when I
No.
was a young person. I have a degree in mathematics as an undergrad, and
Oh, that shows.
yeah,
That
yeah,
makes sense.
makes
And
sense. Yeah.
I'm if I'm being honest, I'm a math geek.
Oh, good.
I don't like to cop to that because so many people who do math, like, how to put this? They do it badly. That's the way I'm going to put it. They do it badly. They
Fair.
memorize number stuff without knowing how it fits into the universe.
Yeah, that's a fair.
It's like they learn the words but not the language.
No, that's a fair. I mean, I think math is such a beautiful thing. There's a great book
Mhm.
called A Mathematician's Lament by Paul Lockhart, and it opens with this dream of a music student or a music teacher. Yeah, and they're like, kids are not they're not allowed to play songs. They have to just like memorize
Right.
notes, and they go through and they're like, well, maybe when you get to graduate school, you can actually play songs. And then, the person wakes up and he's like, well, this is how we teach math. All the like play, we kind of
Totally.
wait. You don't get to do it till you're older.
Right.
So yeah, I anyway,
No, this just went on my list.
yeah, it's a great, you can
I'm
find
looking at it right now and it looks
his original
fantastic.
essay is online. I taught it in a class last semester.
Well, there's a
It's
nice short audiobook and that's how I do most of my prose these days.
yeah, it's a great book, and he's written a few others since. But anyway, so yeah, I was into comics always. I was a maker as a kid. I was a maker as a high school student, and then come to college, and I want to do intellectual things, and comics don't exist as a thing. And even if they did, I don't know that I would have. I would have seen them as sort of like my extra thing, you know?
Right.
So I have this gap in time of not making comics, and I'm still reading them, I'm still drawing a lot, but I'm not like finishing anything. I have some like middle level finished projects in the decade between high school and when I come back to it. And then I ran an arts magazine in Detroit, and I was asked to be in an art show around the 2004 political election. I was like, oh, I only got a couple days to do it. So I'm like, I'll make a comic. And I made this very McCloud like 4-page comic about security. And I'm in it, I'm wearing my t-shirt and I'm talking to the audience. And I like it. It's good. But the 2 weeks later, there was a follow-up show after the election. And I was like, I got to do something that's not. I love Scott, and I know him now personally, and he's one of my favorite humans. But I don't want to be him, right? I want to be me.
Right.
So in the comic, all of this is online, but it's called Show of Hands, and I smash my narrator. It's like in a mirror, and I smash the narrator, and every single panel has something to do with a hand. So it's all metaphors to do with a hand. And I was particularly influenced by Alan Moore and Melinda Gebbe's This Is Information. It's in the 9/11 anthology comic
Yeah.
that came out in 2002, which is a visual essay. Like there's no, Alan Moore's not standing there in his big bushy beard explaining stuff to us. Um, so those really sparked things. And then I did this comic on games for this exhibition, and it really showed me that I could do the thing that I loved. I loved making comics. I loved drawing and thinking through my drawing. But I could reach people, and not by dumbing down things, because I think people would agree my comics are anything but simple.
No.
But by using the visual metaphor, the juxtaposition of image and text, and the juxtaposition of image and image, and the page itself to really reach out and bring people in. And I like being in academia, but I don't always like that academia tends to keep people out with language. It becomes a thing of vocabulary. And so I felt like with comics, I had a way to reach out of the academy. I could go there and do and learn stuff I like to learn, but I could take it out and I could bring it to people. So when I applied to Columbia, I said, this is what I want to do. I was pretty naive about what comics in the academy. I kind of thought with Mouse and Persepolis and understanding comics that that argument had been long won. It wasn't. I think there was a lot more acceptance than there had been, but comics as scholarship was not a thing. But I was old enough and stubborn enough that, and I think I lucked out. I hit some moment where people were really receptive to education that looked different. Uh,
Right.
and then, honestly, the work, my dad's a physics teacher. Very early on, I thought, well, I'll make a comic about like physics, like that'll be cool. That'll be my thing. But I realized as I was starting the dissertation process, or before that, really, as I was starting doctoral school, that that while I thought the argument had been won and people were receptive to it, I still had to make the case that comics could count. So the work became very much about itself in ways I didn't anticipate. I hadn't meant to be sort of an advocate for, comics and visual thinking in the academy, but as a result of realizing where I was at, I felt I had to. I had to say this is why it counts. And not only this is why this counts, but this is why things kind of like it should count. That the ways of thinking that we do that aren't purely text-based or number-based um, should count, and here's why. And so, it's interesting. It does get compared to understanding comics more than I like. Not because I don't. Again, I'm a huge fan. It's a huge influence on me, but it doesn't do anything very much like it except refer to it in the middle. And there's only one chapter that's
Well,
actually about comics.
no, I understand. And
And
like,
that's not a crit. It happens all
no,
the
no,
time.
no. I'm just
Um,
when I read it initially, and again, I haven't because we managed to throw this together so quickly. I didn't have time to like do that last minute reread and be
oh,
completely fresh on it.
my comment
Um,
wasn't towards you, by the way.
no,
That was
I
towards
know, I
every
know,
review I'd ever gotten.
I know, but like when I because I've also sold it.
Yeah. No, you're good. Like, I appreciate it.
Uh, uh, and I start with understanding comics because that's like the gateway to the people that I'm generally talking to.
For
But
sure.
then I jump out into, but really it's not about that at all because it's about looking at thought and looking at perception and I mean, it's about so many things and
Yeah.
it makes you
Some
ask
people would say too
so
many.
many questions. No, I mean, I don't, but like as I'm
No, but
listening to you and I'm realizing that like whether it was just you, I know your Karen Green at Columbia who you worked with and what made a wonderful comic about.
yeah, that was fun. Unexpected thing there. Had a
Right.
better life than one could have guessed.
Right. It was also big on this, but like I laugh because I work special ed in high school and I'm still fighting to get comics in special ed. Um, and part of my argument is like you understand that like colleges teach more comics than we do, and I can
Mm,
show them your
yeah,
class, I can show them Paul Levitt's class, I can show
sure.
them Dave Chisholm's classes, you know. Um, so like I love the work that you've done, particularly because like I'm also autistic, I'm neurodivergent. I can't make a picture in my head to save my life. I realize that that's one of the reasons I can look at a picture and decide whether or not I think it's right.
Hmm.
It's not as simple as, oh, wait, I don't have zero visualization ability, but it's like a construct of words.
Yeah.
I've always said that, like, if you ask me to describe Wrigley Field, I can give you a word cloud so good that you think that I closed my eyes and am looking at it, but I'm not.
Hmm.
I can't do that. I just
Yeah.
know it so well and have thought about it so much and have looked at it so much and looked at the rivets in the uprights and
Yeah.
that I can just keep going and keep going and keep going. Um, but like, as an educator, as a special educator, I'm acutely aware of the number of different ways that people learn.
Yes.
And one of the greatest powers of comics is if done well, you can write one comic book that essentially pushes all of the different learning buttons,
Absolutely. That's such a great point. And I mean
which
that's
no other tool can do.
yeah, I think that I mean I don't know about no other tool, but I think comics do it really well. And they demand rereading. And I loved what you said at the very start here. I was going to follow up on that like each time you read the work, you see something new in it. And
Hmm.
that I mean that was a huge like it takes me forever. So I'm really glad, right? Like, like if you're reading it, in 15 minutes, like some comics you can, which is fine, but like if that happens with mine, that's trouble, right? Like, and I
Right.
love comics that reward rereading. I love comics that don't too, like they keep my eyes moving. But um, but yeah, comics offer so much. I mean, I think about it, whether it's literacy tool, which I don't want to diminish them by seeing them as a gateway, but they certainly are, right? That's not a, I think of
I
my,
mean, they can be a gateway, but they can also be their own thing.
but they're
And
their
they're
own
definitely
thing.
their own literacy as well,
And they're
because
hard. They're
yeah,
difficult to read. We think they're easy, but they're
no,
really, you got to figure out where to go and you have to pay. Like, I mean, really didn't think about it as much till I had kids, but reading a comic out loud to somebody is weird, right? It's weird because like when do the
it's
sound
fun.
effects take place? When do
Yeah,
things that are happening? And so, I can say I remember well with my older kid, she's like 3.5 and she's pointing, she's not, she's reading right about then, but just before she is, she's pointing out things that I missed, right? She's like, hey,
right.
you skipped that, right? Because she can't just like, close her eyes and listen. She has to watch what I'm doing. And I think comics engage your whole brain in way, I mean, whole brain. Again, it's careless language there, but they engage you in a very
But
whole
only a
way.
little bit.
Hey, right, but I don't know the science there to say it, so I'll
Well,
be
but I mean, Karen will cite sources that say that they're the one medium that engages both sides of your brain.
yeah.
It
I mean,
forces you to do some heavy lifting.
for sure, and I
Uh,
point to that in the middle of the book as sort of the core of my argument is that right, they allow both the sequential and the all at once, the
mhm.
simultaneous, and I think that's a really it's an exciting thing about comics. It's a little like it's such an interesting time. Like we're finally embracing comics right at the same time as our phones have all this moving, distracting stuff. And
Right.
I'm like, you know,
I don't know.
I
I may be weird, but I bought a smartphone when I realized I could read comics on it.
fair, right? I guess you can, right? No, that's true. But it's just like I the static nature of comics is really their strength.
It is.
And I hope we remember that as fancy things that are animated and are happening. Right, right.
I
My
think
students they are all reading the comics for class on their phone, and I get it. I do it once in a while too. It's
well,
there,
one of the
right? We
things
have
that
it.
I've found is because I like reading comics in different ways.
Yeah,
I mean, obviously I'm tactile, so I love, you know, took me a long time to manage to put my hands on this.
yeah.
I had it digitally for a long time before I
Oh, really?
managed
I
to.
didn't even know you could get it digitally, but
Hmm. Hmm. I had it digitally for a long time before I managed to put my hands on it.
yeah,
Um, and I love reading it this way, but I also love reading it digitally. Um, this one, just because of the way you do pages, I'm not as likely to do on my phone or do panel to panel,
yeah.
though. I sometimes will pull it up on my phone to show somebody something, you know. Um, but like I'll use two examples of books that I've read in every imaginable way, and that's Saga and Love and Rockets. I've
That
read
makes
them.
sense.
I've
Definitely could
read
see you
them.
reading Saga.
I've done them as single issues. I've done them as trades. I've done them as hardcovers. I've like the oversized hardcovers when I can. Love and Rockets, I've done in issue order. I've done it separated by stories. But the other thing I've done with both of them is gone panel by panel. And I like to set it up so that I get the whole page first,
Yeah.
and then the panels, and then the whole page again. But panel by panel on my phone, relatively close up, everything else kind of shut out. So I'm really just like
Yeah.
digging into either the Hernandez brothers or Fiona Staples and all of the. I mean, Jaime blows my mind. Like every
Every panel.
panel is
Every
something that I would
panel.
put on my wall.
Yes, he's something else. Yeah. Um,
So like I get a different appreciation in the different ways that I read.
right. No, that's a great point.
you know
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, it's interesting. Like they tried, I don't know if you've seen I have a single page, large page on entropy that was in the Boston Globe. It gets shared periodically, but all the sketches I made for it are on my site. But it's called anyway. When it just before it came out in the paper, they were like, "Can we make a digital version of this comic that will like you can page through?" And I was like, "You can try. I don't mind." But it's a comic that asks you to read in a spiral and then spiral back out. And I was like, "You're welcome to do it. I don't know how you can do it. I don't know if you're looking at it already or." Um,
I'm trying to pull it up.
I can put it in your chat here.
I went to the Boston Globe first, and it wants me
Oh
to
yeah, that's
to
probably
to
the
to
worst way because you'd
to
have to
to,
be a
to pay, and I
subscriber.
don't want to do that. So we'll
No,
we'll
no, no, no. I'll just
we'll
send it to
move.
you.
No, I'm
But
there now. Sketching
there you go. It's
entropy.
in there. Anyway, it's yeah, I like comics, of all kinds. And my students, they read a lot of webtoons, and it's a format that I find confusing because I think about pages or spreads and how they fit together. And the new book you might have seen has a 15-foot long sequence that I really want printed as a either a
A fold
accordion
out.
or yeah or something, right? And I don't know, it's been done for years. I was trying to get them to release it as a standalone early, and I've had no luck. I don't know if I don't know why they won't, but like something about that, the physicality of it and the static nature of it, I really am excited about. But they're all work. They're
Well,
all these different
and
formats
like
do their thing. The only thing that doesn't work is motion comics because they suck.
yeah, pretty much. But like there's a different flow to the vertical scroll.
Yeah,
Uh, like I've noticed because every once in a while, I mean, we actually did a great response. We have a segment in the middle of our weekly episode that we call Great Responsibility, where we just sometimes we're reading a graphic novel series, sometimes we choose a topic, and like at one point we decided to look at the adaptations of comics into vertical comics because that was happening a lot, and like it's not as simple as move a panel,
right.
because if you want to get that tension, if you want to get that flow to feel right, you gotta play with like how much space is between like
Sure.
like the comic gutter kind of does that on its own without changing the size. But when you're doing a vertical scroll, it's more like, okay, can we have any part of the pictures on the page at the same time, or do we have to make certain that it scrolls far
Yeah.
enough that it's gone by the time you see the next one? If we do that, do we just use white space, or do we kind of fade it and fade it? There's
Right.
so many
Right.
different tricks, and you can tell when it's being done by people who are really thinking about the effect versus people who
hmm
are just cutting the panels and throwing them in a
Right.
strip.
Right. It's a
you
whole
know.
different mindset. I mean, I don't think
Right,
there's, obviously I'm a defender of static comics, but
right.
I think they're just different. They're just
Yeah,
different. And you have to, if you're scrolling this way or scrolling this way, or
yeah.
static
It makes
pages
a
or
difference.
spreads or square
I mean,
books.
this is what did you see one of the coolest comic things I own is did you see that Ronald Wimberly printed his
Oh
um
yeah, I have
yeah,
that.
but he printed it as
Yeah,
as
yeah. No,
the
I have
font.
that as a collection of things that
Right.
I've tried to convince my editor to print mine like that. So yeah, yeah, there's that. I mean, and there's like J.H. Williams' Echoland, which is a
Hmm.
not a scroll, but
Hmm.
it's a horizontal format. Like try to get students to think about like, really think hard about the page that you are making this for. It's
Right.
not just putting your panels together.
I think it's in one of the boxes here, so I'm not going to be able to find. Well, let me check my desk drawer because it might
Which
be
one are
in
you
a
looking?
desk
What are you
drawer.
looking for?
No, there was a comic that I think Uncivilized published it that was literally like a Mobius strip comic.
Mm, cool.
One of the things I love to go to um, small press shows for is small presses and or independent cartoonists do some of the craziest things in terms of messing with the form.
Yeah.
I've seen, I don't even know what you call them, but the girls in school always had those things that they put their fingers
Oh
in
yeah,
and then
yeah.
count off. I've seen comics made of those.
Yeah, yeah, I have too. I've had at least one or two students, and when we do like mini comic week or mini comic
Right.
projects, I'll get one or two of those every year or two.
Yeah. And that's like, I mean, I remember the first time I saw a Choose Your Own Adventure comic. It was
Oh, Jason Chiga?
Jason, yeah,
My
that
God,
was the
yeah, that
first one.
guy.
And it's like, oh, this is brilliant. This is definitely a medium that you could mess with this. And then like when you come across the thing at the zine show where it's like, oh, they didn't just make it a choose your own adventure. They made it so, oh, you want to go this way, you open it this way. If you want to go that way, you open it this
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, it's
way.
fun.
You
I mean,
know.
so much potential. It's a little tricky to get stuff printed. I mean, I feel like if you were French,
Yeah.
you have a bunch of Marc-Antoine Mathieu books, and I don't know if do you know his work?
I don't know.
One
No.
of my favorite ones is his Museum Vaults one, which I have, but it's in a room in my house I can't get to right now because my
Uh,
wife's doing a podcast at the same
that's
time.
that's totally cool.
But I think it's in this one. So you're reading along, and Matu is doing the things that he does, right? You're reading along, and you're like, all right, it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool, right? I like it. That's pretty cool. Oh, look, that neat spiral, boy. That's well drawn. And then you're like, oh my
Oh
God.
wow.
Sorry. Right? Like,
I can
and
see
then
it.
he's in the
Yeah.
real world. I mean, you know, but it's like this
It's
kind
like
of printing. We don't, children's books, we get it, but comics, pretty tough. I don't know. The market doesn't seem to allow things like that very often.
no, I mean,
But
and probably there's an element of it that's just the pure logistics of we don't have. I mean, we'd have to essentially print it in France because we don't have the necessary facilities
right,
here.
that's probably true.
I mean, as one of the untalked about downsides of the mass conglomeration of everything is we have so much less flexibility to do things
Yeah,
because it's like, oh, there's not a market for this, so we're going to get rid of the building. We're going to make it so that even if there is a market, we can't do it. I mean, like when vinyl exploded again,
yeah.
it took years before they could like come anywhere near meeting the demand because there weren't factories to make them anymore.
Mm,
They had to build from scratch. I mean,
yeah,
at one point, Jack White, who had bought a factory that was going to get torn down when he started his Third Man Records, was producing like a third of all the vinyl in the United States because he had the capacity that nobody else had.
yeah. Oh, fascinating. I didn't know that. But
Just because like all of the major producers had, it's not just that they'd produced less vinyl, they'd gotten rid of their equipment.
yeah,
They'd
that
sold
makes sense.
off. The type of stuff that doesn't happen as much when you're a smaller business business. But when it becomes just a line item, it's like, why are we holding on to this?
Right.
When you're a multi-billion dollar business, it's like, why are we holding on to this? Whereas if you're not a multi-billion dollar business, it's like, because there might come a day that it's more valuable than the scrap metal that we can sell it for right now.
Right. Right. Right.
And I feel like that's part of what's happened with printing. I know the guys that have you read Santos Sisters?
Don't
Actually won
think
an
so.
Eisner last year, which I
That's the name of the
I
book.
Santos Sisters, yeah.
I apologize. I have not.
No, that's okay. It's kind of like an adult-ish comic
Yeah.
inspired by Archie
That
and
looks like a
and
perfect
and Brown
description.
and whatnot. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I love it. But like when they started it, one of their big things is they wanted to print it like Archie. They wanted the four
Yeah.
color, they wanted the newsprint,
It
whatnot.
looks
They spent 6 months searching the United States to find a printing press that could do it because they also wanted to print in the US.
mm,
They wound up finding one in their backyards,
there
essentially,
you go. Yeah. Well, I
because
wonder, did you see Dennis Camps and I forget his sorry, this is my names here are bad, but their
which book?
crisis series,
Assorted Crisis Events.
assorted crisis
Eric
events.
Sawitsky.
The most recent issue, I think it's
Oh,
either
number
the
8.
one that's on newsprint basically, and it's all
Yeah.
I loved
Oh,
it. I mean, I loved it conceptually, but I also was
yeah.
like, I feel like
Yeah.
since whenever Baxter paper came out in
Hmm.
1990 something, I've been like, I can't look at the glare is killing me. Um, and
Chris
I love,
Condon and Jacob Phillips did their That Texas Blood miniseries on
cool.
newsprint too.
Yeah, it's something
And they didn't
something
even
nice
tell
about it.
anybody in advance. It was a surprise when the first issue came out that they'd printed
Fun.
on newsprint.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and for that
It's
matter, I think even the trade paperback is on newsprint. It's like a slightly
mm,
heavier newsprint, but it's still the
sure. Good for that. I mean, you know, I won't go there on too much on the conversation, but I did like the lack of glare.
yeah.
And as somebody who doesn't work in color, it doesn't affect me the same way it does to people who do.
Well,
So
I mean, what I like, I will never bash anybody for doing anything. I What I like is when people don't feel inhibited from doing things either.
right.
You
No, that's a
know,
good point.
I mean, you want to make glossy comics, make glossy comics. If I don't like it, I won't buy it, you
That's
know.
true.
Um and sometimes they work and sometimes they dust longer. So there's a
Right, right. They
balancing
last. No,
act
I mean
there
they
too.
look good. They look. I'm not really compl It's just the
No,
glare
I
is.
know you're not. I'm just
I buy them, right? I buy them all the time, and I like them. It's
right.
just I wish there was
It,
a
it's
medium that.
Well, and like my billion, and it probably wouldn't cost that much, but like if I dream of being the billionaire, the first thing I do is like build the paper plant and the printing press to try to have my own ability to print in as many different ways as people could ask me to do.
Yeah.
You
Well,
know,
let me know when that happens. I got an accordion
I
chapter
know.
that I could.
I'll keep that in the back of my head. Any billionaires out there listening who want to like bankroll me will go to this is how my autistic brain works. I'll drop it in a red state because what nobody seems to realize about red states is like they're only a few 100,000 votes away from being blue states. So
Fair.
if you put businesses that are likely to either make them think more and more progressively, or run the businesses in progressive ways to make them think progressively, or attract progressive people to move into the state, flipping them might not be as hard as people think. And
And I think
like,
you're probably right.
if we don't want the Senate to be an issue, we need to start flipping
No,
some.
I think there's been, yeah.
I
Yes.
mean, I laughed so hard when Trump was throwing his paper towels in Puerto Rico because I did like back of the napkin math, and I'm like, if they decided to abandon the island, or even if somebody just said, "Hey, let's let me move you into these houses for, if a billionaire really wanted to change the election results,
Yeah.
they could move everybody out of Puerto Rico and distribute them properly to flip like 12 states,
Well,
six of which people
I
thought were not flippable.
yeah, I think our billionaires have
No,
other
unfortunately,
things
I
on
don't
their
think there's such
minds.
thing as a benevolent
No.
billionaire. Y-
Just Bruce Wayne, that's it.
well, I mean, is he benevolent or is he? I mean, because like I love Batman too, and you've got the Batman t-shirt on, but like he punches a lot of people. I don't know that we can call somebody who thinks that fighting is the most common answer to a problem
Oh. Yeah, all right. I won't go there.
benevolent.
Yeah,
He's a
well,
good guy. He's a
there you
good
go.
guy. There we'll agree. Um, Tell me about teaching comics because I
Sure.
love it that like you went out and you got your PhD in comics, and then you went out and like started developing comics classes, and I go through your syllabi and go, oh God, I'd love to take
Oh,
that
we have so
class.
much fun. It'd be fun to have you. I wish,
Huh?
yeah, wish I could do more things. It's been fun. Let's see. I started teaching comics. I mean, I had taught before. Like I'd subbed for my dad as a physics teacher a little bit, and I taught public speaking and writing where I did my master's in Detroit, and I was a tennis pro. So I had been teaching tennis since I was like 12
A
or
tennis
11 or
pro
something.
on top of everything else.
Yeah,
Are
funny
you
guy. Yeah,
certain
I
that
mean,
you're not Bruce Wayne, Nick?
I'm certain, certain. I don't. That's a weird. I'll just say, as somebody who was a mathematician and is known as art, but I also, I was a competitive, lower level. I tried to play on the circuit before I, just went to teaching it. But we tend to see those things as weird, right? We tend to think, well, you're not supposed to be math and art, or you're not supposed to be sport, and
I
I
don't.
I really think.
I mean, I love baseball
Yeah, but in culture,
and
you're like,
no,
if you
I know.
say if you're in an art class and you say, "Has anybody study mathematics here?" Everybody laughs, right? And similarly, and a big part of unflattening for me is to make an argument that I don't think the things I was encouraged by my parents who are educators to do stuff, to move, to think, to draw, to just do the things that are human, right?
Right,
Do the things that are human and not say, oh no, that's not for me because I do this, right?
right.
And I think we draw these boxes around ourselves really unnecessarily and it
Oh,
to our
absolutely.
detriment. So anyway, yes, I don't know so I've taught a lot, right? I taught
Yeah,
tennis for right up until the last year of my doctoral school. It's how I paid for taught on a rooftop in New York City to pay for my doctorate.
nice.
Yeah, it was over a parking garage. But so right then during while I was working on the dissertation on unflattening, I taught my first comics classes. So I taught some at Teachers College and then I also taught at Parsons. And a lot of it, I will say, a lot of the sort of theorizing on comics that's in unflattening came from stuff I was trying to figure out for my classes ideas, as I was trying to make sense of it to explain to them, they became things that became pages for me. So, I'll say one thing about teaching, there's times where I'm like, you know, do I really want to be teaching because I really just want to make my work? But I learned so much from teaching, from my students, from having to figure out things, from the stuff they do. I mean, I like it. There's many things I don't like about the sort of system of it, but I always enjoy what I get from the experience of engaging with them. Um, and it definitely shapes my work, and it's continuing to. Um, but I taught so the very first course, I think it was the first one I taught at Columbia, um, is a sort of, I was at a school of education, so I was teaching is comics in education or comics in the classroom, I think we called it. Um, and I remember well, like I did a lot of hands-on activities because that's, again, being a tennis pro, that's like part of what you do. Um,
Right.
can't just talk people into playing, like, hey, This is what it looks like.
Read this book,
Yeah, read this book.
and
No,
then
you
I'll
gotta,
watch you on Friday and tell you
yeah,
what you
right.
did wrong.
You you gotta move, right? So we did, but there was a like I'd had McLeod's book for that class, and I can't remember some other things. I don't remember all the texts, and they didn't come in. Like I don't know, it was like back ordered or something. So we didn't have like the readings for class. Um, and I remember, so let's say it's the fourth week of class, and I was like, the readings still hadn't come in, and I started to say out loud, I said, we've been making stuff, right? But we just hadn't done like theory. And I said, I'm really sorry. I feel like we haven't learned it. And I stopped myself. And I was like, wait a second. I'm doing this dissertation in comics about how we learn through drawing and about different ways of knowing. I'm teaching this class. I'm a tennis pro who knows this, right? But even me, because I'm still in an institution of school, right? I
Mhm.
still feel like if they don't get, the things, they don't
The
have the
things
like
that they're supposed to
the
get.
things they're supposed to have, right? If they don't have the things they're supposed to have, that I'm somehow not doing what I'm supposed to do. And it really crystallized for me how I wanted to teach. I mean, I think I was already doing it, but I still had that, and so I was like, no, actually, because we've been doing exercises where I just give an example of something. I don't know if I did it then, but I do it now, where how did you get here? And tell me that in a three-panel comic, and also tell me that in a two-page comic. So it's a simple activity, right? And you can
Right,
interpret how I got here, like literally, what did you do from leaving your house to come into class? Or what was the path that took you to college? Or how did your parents meet? And whatever. Like
right.
they interpret it in many ways. But make this three-panel comic and make the two-page, and what do you teach yourself about the choices you have available to you with two pages versus three panels? And then you've got a whole classroom of people all wrestling with the same thing. So the amount of, you got 25 people all earnestly trying this activity. Some will do this crazy metaphorical thing in three panels, like the universe was born, this happened, I saw an ad for a comics class, right? Like, there'll be three things. And then their other one will be this like super breakdown of like, I got up, I brushed my teeth, I got on my skateboard, I whatever, right? It'll be this thing.
Right.
Some of them will have the same events in each, some will not at all. But the amount of learning they get out of doing and then comparing with each other is enormous. So that really, I teach officially non-making classes, but they all have making at their core because I think that's the best way people understand theory. And then we can read theory, we can look at stuff. I show them lots of things. It's not like I don't give them lots of examples and lots of stuff, um, but I think when you do it yourself, you then can see what people are talking about. You can then appreciate when we look at Thierry Gronstein's and his idea of, braiding or whatever those things are, right? Like you have it, you're like, oh yeah, I see that in what I'm doing. I'm a big fan of Matt Madden's. I see you had him on at some point in here. Big.
Couple of times.
Oh, all right, all right.
Yeah,
Matt
because
Madden's
he came back
99
for
Ways
he came back for the
for the six.
translations.
For which one?
Uh, he came on his own to talk Six Treasures of the Spiral,
Oh yeah.
but then he came back and he was part of a roundtable on translation.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah,
Cool.
yeah,
Well,
yeah.
yeah, it's his
And we have
99
other
ways.
ideas in the back of our head.
Yeah, no, he's that 99 ways to tell a story is something I make a regular thing in my intro to making because it's such a, for those who don't know, it's a one-page comic that says that's basically he's working, he goes downstairs to get something out of the refrigerator. His wife asks him what time it is. By the time he gets to the refrigerator, he forgets what the hell he was looking for. And then he does it 98 more times, playing with the form of it, playing with the narrative voice, playing with the style, genre. Just keeps every single time. And I have students add a page to it in their own way. Um, and it just teaches you so much about the possibilities. And I think
I
that's,
love when you start posting those.
oh
I
yeah, they're super fun. I mean,
Yeah,
when the students take it earnestly, it's really extraordinary. But I think when you show them the possibilities, whether it's, like I said, 3 panels, 2 pages, or doing Matt's thing, or we'll say, hey, tell a funny, like a little vignette from your life to your neighbor, and then they'll tell you one from theirs, and then you both go and make a comic about the other story and your own story, and then we compare those too, right? What are the choices you made to do to tell your friend's story that are different from the choices they made to tell the same story, right? So I think you learn a lot by making. Learn a lot by constraints. My courses are pretty heavily constraint based. We do pictureless comics, right? Like I have a day where we talk about words in comic, text image relations, and then the sort of, the visual nature of text in comics. And we'll look at the famous John Byrne Alpha Flight comic, in a snowstorm. It's called
Yeah.
Snowblind. So I don't know, half of it's in the snowstorm, and I'm like, all right, now we're going to do this. And sometimes they do it at home. Sometimes it's uh, all right, you do one panel and then you pass to the next person, you pass to the next person. So we do a lot of things like that. So the constraints are both,
I'll say that reminds me of Bob Sikoriak at Raw
mm,
put together the Infinite Corpse.
oh,
And
cool.
or no,
Bob's,
the narrative corpse. And now there's a website that's the Infinite Corpse.
oh, cool. I don't know
Whereas
that.
all
I
three pit here, I'll find
cool.
it and drop it into. I'm
Thank you. Yeah,
surprised you don't
I
know
know
it
Bob
because
well. He's a mad genius, that guy.
no,
Bob
he
is
is.
such an
He's
inspiration.
I'm so happy to call him a friend, and I'm so happy that
Yeah,
he
and one
joins
of the
us.
nicest. I say this a lot. Bob and Creota were like
Oh
some of
yeah,
the earliest cartoonists I met in New York City, and just the most lovely humans. And
he
actually, Creota, we have Creota in my advanced class as a guest,
oh nice
virtual guest, because her
with
book Draw
the
Stronger
draw stronger.
is such a is such a essential thing if you want to have cartoonists have a a, a
I
lifetime practice.
I have given that to so many young cartoonists. It's not even funny.
It's yeah, I make my students buy it. They
At,
have to.
at this point, I think that there are four books that every young cartoonist should have, and we've talked about two of them that they should. Well, we've talked about three of them really, because every young cartoonist should have Understanding Comics. Every young cartoonist should have Draw Stronger. Every young cartoonist should have 99 Ways to Tell a Story, and every young cartoonist should have Shelley Bond's Filth and Grammar.
Oh, I just got
Um,
that.
yeah.
Or I just kickstarted it or something. I don't
Yeah, I
know.
mean, there are
I have.
three volumes overall, but the Filth and Grammar is the one that does the most of the editing
All
stuff.
right. Yeah. I got
Um,
that. Cool. Yeah. So
because
I probably work about 180 degrees different from Linda Berry.
okay,
But I always teach Linda Berry's work because
they're
I'm very much
absolutely great
about
too.
planning and structure, and Linda is
Mhm.
all about just like feeling.
Let it out.
And students love it. I love it. It's not
Yeah,
it's hard for me to be that person, right?
right,
But my teaching shouldn't be make a bunch of people who think like me. It should be, here's comics. Here are all the different ways you can approach them.
right.
Here's one, and so I make that book a regular thing, and
I
they get a
presume,
ton from that. Her book
right,
Syllabus or Making Comics, they're kind of the same
making
book,
comics.
Making
They're
Comics and
similar. Yeah.
Syllabus.
Have you read? I assume you have because you're a Scott fan, but the book he did with Raina Telgemeier
Oh yeah,
recently, the
yeah. My kiddo
Cartoonist
and I
Club.
read
Oh
it.
my God.
My latest my superhero syllabus was I used the mini comic format um, that they. I was like reading their thing, and I was like, "Oh, great! They're going to teach us how to make a mini comic." And then I'm reading how they did it, and I'm like, "That's not how we do it." And then so yeah, the sort of
Yeah.
oversized using both sides. So yeah, I love it.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
a lot of fun. It's a necessary book. We're big fans of Raina here and big fans of Scott, so it's fun to see
Well, and
them together.
I love that it also drove home that like there's not a wrong way to make a comic.
Yeah,
Just do it. I mean, and that's the way it popped into my head as you were talking about Linda Berry. It's like, no, I can't do it that way, but that doesn't mean that,
right.
because
I-
I mean, so often that's the enemy of creativity is like
Absolutely.
thinking that you have to be I mean, I'm so grateful. We were just talking about it on our weekly episode this week, where I called it our podcast, and both my co-hosts are sitting there going, "No, you mean you." Because I was talking about the grand thing. I'm like, no, I still have trouble thinking of that way because I never would have started it if Tyler
Hmm.
hadn't asked me to. And yeah,
Right.
I've been involved in all 800 plus episodes, but I wouldn't have 800 plus episodes if I didn't have a couple of different co-hosts for to anchor a weekly episode, you
Yeah.
know, a crew of people that do different book clubs with me, and or that I can go, "Oh, I'm talking to this person. I think it'd be really, really interesting, even more interesting than just me talking to this person, to hear that person talk to this person. And that person's a friend of mine, or that person's in a book club of
Right,
mine.
right.
Hey, you want to come sit second chair?"
Sure. No, I
You
think you're,
know?
yeah, I think you're, I mean, thinking of my class, like, the blank page is scary,
Yeah,
right? It's scary and it's intimidating. And a lot, the more I teach, and obviously we had 2 years that were remote. So I
right.
had to invent a lot of self-constraint activities. But coming back to class, I really push the somebody, you've got 2 minutes to do something, and then you hand it to the next person, and it frees you. Um, it really, I think, frees you from that. I've got to make the perfect thing. I've got to come up with something. You have to think with your hands, right? You have to think with your hands, and and then you got to let go of the I'm going to make something great. And it's fun, right? They laugh, it's silly. The class is fun when we're doing that, and it's fun other times too. Um, so there's a lot of laughter going on, but there's also a ton of learning going on. And I do, coming back to my own realization in the classroom, I think we do feel like school should be this very serious thing. And you know, we all were children and we all learn by play, and I don't think it should stop. I don't think it should
No,
stop when you're 20
I
or
mean, I
18.
often laugh that like uh, people learning to be teachers still read John Dewey, and they should, because John Dewey talks about like do work, and but you go into classrooms now and you still have what I call Dewey desks, the ones where you sit and you have a thing in front of you that's only big
Yeah.
enough to write on.
Yeah, no, I
And
didn't know. I'm a big fan of Dewey, but the desks, yeah, the desks are, I
no,
mean, the
no,
desk is
they're
a
not
kind of
his
a,
desks. No, no, no. He didn't make those desks. In one of his chapters, he says that those are terrible desks.
oh, all right.
So
Yes. Okay. That
125
sounds more
years
like
ago,
Dewey than,
yeah,
I don't,
125 years ago, he was recommending that we
yeah,
get
it's
rid of those desks that are
right,
still
right.
in so many
They're still in. And
classrooms.
I mean, there's all these studies about tables being better that like they've
Right,
been out forever. And I'm like in
right,
college classrooms and we got these crazy things and students are trying to draw. I mean, I
right,
usually demand tables for my class if I can,
right.
but um, it is funny. I mean, similarly, there's been all this data on drawing in while listening. There's a
Uh-huh,
ton of stuff like drawing as like a form of retention and
uh-huh.
uh, tons of studies on it. But at the same time, I asked my students, did you get in trouble for drawing in class? And shoom, all the hands go up,
Yep,
right?
yep.
All the hands go up.
Tons of studies on standardized tests not working, but we use more and more and more of them.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
I saw your hand. That's
yeah,
exactly
yeah.
how
No,
I
I got it.
respond.
I, clearly a lot of unflattening is an anti standardized test book. I
Yeah,
mean, that's
yeah.
what its aim is. I got bubble
I
tests drawn into the pages in there.
yeah. Like I was recently in a professional development where the speaker was showing us that like um in the reading scores in Finland are like they're like third in reading, and we're like 26th, and we have on average 2 hours of homework a night, and they have on average 2 hours of homework a week. you know Japan has been teaching math completely differently from us I mean, some
Hmm.
schools have started to adapt it, but like rather than like doing rote and doing a ton of problems for years, they've been okay. You know these concepts, blah blah blah. So we're going to show you something new. Get together with your table, see what you can figure out.
Yeah.
Then we'll go from what you've shown that you understand to teach you some stuff, and then we'll send you back to your table.
Yeah, no, it's hard. I mean, I get it. Like we're stuck with 30 kids or whatever you are,
Right.
right? And their skill levels or
Very. No,
are
there.
giant, right? It's a hard problem, but
Right.
we're
There
not
there are
we're
tons
not
of
very
good reasons
imaginative
for
about
where
this.
we are. There aren't as many good reasons for why we continue to decide that that's where we have to be.
No, that's well said. Yeah,
You
we
know,
could do better.
I always use the metaphor of like what we've been doing with education forever. And I don't think I'm the first one that said this. I think I read it in a book ages ago, but who it was, I can't remember. But what we've
Yeah.
been doing in education for like the last century in the United States is we've been trying to take the square peg and put it in the round hole. And when it won't fit, we don't look at the square hole. We don't move over to the square hole. We take out a hammer and we hit it, as if the problem is not that we're doing it wrong, it's that we're not doing it hard enough.
Yeah. No, it's a
And
yeah,
I wish
big
that we'd
problem,
actually, yeah,
bigger
I
than we
wish
can
that we'd
solve on
adopt
this.
my son's solution. For his first Christmas, I gave him one of those Fisher Price, the cylindrical ones, the yellow with the blue top, and it's got the square hole, the
Yeah, I can
star
picture
hole,
it.
whatnot. He tried to put the star into the circle, it didn't work. He tried to put the star into the triangle, it didn't work. He gave up, took the top off, put the star in, put the top back on.
That works too.
And I'm like, you know, negative a point for shape recognition, plus 10 points for out of the box thinking.
There you go. Right, right. It's all yeah,
Um,
I like that.
so what for you um is the most fun about teaching comics classes, which I think you've touched on some, but like try to put it
Sure.
into concise terms. But then contrast that with what are the challenges
Sure.
trying
Um,
to. I mean, I assume most of your students are already comics fans, but like having them connect with comics in a different level than maybe they have before.
yeah. I mean, it's always fun. Like I teach the general introduction class, I teach making courses, I'm teaching this superhero class this semester, which I've never wanted to like I still read superhero comics. I do not like talking about that out loud. Like the minute I start talking about, the bottle city of Candor and I'm like, okay, this is, ridiculous. But we are having the best time. Just the
I did
best
love that
time
you
taking.
have Kelly's Absolute Wonder Woman on your syllabus. That made me
Oh
very
yeah, yeah,
happy.
that's such a great book.
I
It's such
love
a
Kelly
great book.
Thompson.
I mean, yeah, she's amazing.
Yeah.
I'm a huge uh I'm just gonna blank Hayden Sherman fan.
Hayden
Like
Sherman.
it's blowing
Yeah.
my mind. That's how I
Yeah.
came to it, and then Kelly Thompson. Like it's all the things that it's the only like superhero comic I'm regularly reading with my kid. Like we read lots of comics, but tend
Right.
not to read superhero ones together, and just anyway,
Yeah.
we'll get to that. So the superhero class is just a blast. They're so earnest about, you know, the reading, the reading of superhero comics, but also the sort of theorizing on, why do we identify with superheroes? Why do they mean so much to us? And some of them were like geeks about superheroes, and some weren't at all. They're just like, they wanted to do comics, or they'd had other classes with me, and they're just like, this sounds fun. I'll do this too, So generally, though, what's the most? I think that's your question. What's the most fun and what's the challenging? I mean, it's really a treat to watch them grow. And I really I've never wanted to be in an art school because you're going to get people that all have skills and all. I really like being in a place where I get biology students and I get computer science students and I yes, I get art students and animation students and creative writing majors. I like having that mix, and where they learn
It
from each
actually
other.
answered one of my future questions.
Oh, I try to do that. It saves time. Um,
Are you Dr. X?
no. So, I really like that mix, and I feel like the beauty of comics is they're so not porous isn't the word I want, but they're so accommodating to different ways of working,
Hmm.
right? Like I clearly am a person who likes to draw things that look like things, and even though it's metaphorical, I still, I spend a lot of time making things that look like things. But there's Linda Barry who makes amazing comics, right? There's there's people who are, there's John Porcellino, right? Who makes amazing comics there, and then the other.
Chicago native.
What's that?
Chicago native. I get to see
Oh,
him a couple
yes,
of times a
right. I
year.
mean, and there's
We
Chris
just
Ware.
bump
Let's
into
just
each
do
other.
Chicago natives right now.
I haven't actually had Porcelino on, which makes me feel weird because I've been bumping into him a couple of times a
Oh,
year
he
since
seems
before the show started.
I don't know him, but I like
Yeah,
his work. It helps my
he's a cool
students
guy.
think that, so there's so many ways you can make it. And the key is to stick around long enough until you find the one that works for you. And I mentioned already, I do the pictureless comics activity. And I had a student probably during the pandemic, the closed part of it, that she wasn't a drawer. And she was a great student, but she did not want to draw. Um, and so she did great with like she was, I don't know if she was a designer or I forget what she actually did, but she did great with that activity. I was like, why don't you just make your final as a pictureless comic? And so it was a really difficult comic about domestic abuse in her own life, right?
Right.
It was all pictureless, all words except the last page, the last panel had this little teeny drawing of her, this teeny. And it stopped our class cold. It was so good, so good. And, so I have her. And then I get, people who come with tremendous skill and they're in the same room and they're all able to make comics that mean something to us. And I really feel like every student, if I keep using the word earnest today for some reason, but I think if they take it like they mean it, right? I had a cross country student in my class for a bunch of classes, and he just kept making terrible comics. Just every comic was terrible. But whatever, I didn't care. Like it didn't matter to me. He was there. He had a good time. He worked hard. But then he made for the Matt Madden exercise. He made this drawing. He found just the right pen, and he made "What if Matt Madden was a Christmas tree?" So it was the same comic, except Matt Madden was drawn as a Christmas tree. And it's like he just kind of crystallized how he could communicate in comics. And from that point forward, look, it's not like he became a great drawer in this technical sense, right? He's not Jaime Hernandez at this point, but he found the way that he could make meaning and it looked good and it was clear. And it stands out to me that moment where it shifted from one to the other for him. And you really to see that in students to say, oh yeah, this is a legitimate way to do my thinking. And they haven't all spent, like I've devoted a lot of my life to this, right? But they're new to this and it comes quickly to them if they throw themselves into it and just keep trying stuff and falling on their faces and that's all right. Like that's fun. Um
That's
so
how we learn a lot of
that's
things.
how we learn a lot of stuff, right? So that's the joy of it. And that's mostly it. I do feel like the hard part of it. The hard part, I mean, it's interesting. I taught in Detroit, before going to grad school and before coming here, and I kind of thought the students would be similar at Wayne State in Detroit as they are here. But I realized very quickly is my students, and maybe it's the times also, but it's San Francisco, is that they have to work so much. Like it's not like just to survive, just to stay in place here. You have to work many jobs, and there are many jobs which aren't very flexible. Um, and I do think, and I don't know, you're a teacher in the schools, if you're noticing the same thing. Um, I'm
Yeah.
I'm gonna finish my thought before I get into this comic because I'm
No,
pretty
I know.
intrigued at what it, just because I don't know if I can do both at once.
I get it. You want me to
I,
hide it?
no, I'll look away. Um, is I think something really shattered people in the pandemic. And, a lot of these students I have now um, were high school students during shutdowns. And I think that, just the uncertainty of the world, it's
I
affected
th
them. And it's
I mean,
hard. I have just as many extraordinary students, but I think a lot of them are just in a tough spot that they can't be
yeah.
who they want to be. You can see that they want to be, right? I can
Well, I
tell they
think
want to be, but they need some more support to get through it. And I don't think we're not as an institution and as a society, we're not set
yeah,
up to like help
I
them
think
say, "Hey, you can
I
do
think
this."
societally, um, not only did we drop the ball with the pandemic because not enough people we fought over whether or not we should try to overcome it rather than looking for ways to overcome it.
That's good.
Um, I mean, like I'm blessed. I truly feel like, and I can list 1,000 ways that my school was affected, but I truly feel like my school was affected a lot less than many schools. But part of that was we had a Zoom contract pre-pandemic because we were working on figuring out how to minimize snow days.
Mm.
Um,
Come on, we love snow days. I'm a Michigan native, man. I love snow days.
yes, but we also hate staying that extra day at the end of the
No,
year.
right. They didn't make us do that long way back. Now they do.
Well, it depends on how many. I mean, you
I
generally
know, I know.
have the ability for a couple of them. So we were already exploring. I mean, because I'm blessed to teach at a school that has a lot of money for a public school.
Yeah, that's
So
good.
it was something that was being explored already. So when it became clear that we were going to need to shut down, we shut it down for the kids a day before we shut it down for the teachers, and we brought all
Mm,
the teachers in and we did a crash course on Zoom for an hour in the morning together, and then we broke out by departments to play and figure out how can we use these tools to minimize what we lose. Are there ways we can use these tools to enhance things? Are there things that we can do like because that's what I feel like. I think every article that only focuses on what kids lost is missing the point that a lot of our kids gained things, and I think that's part of the reason that we're seeing some of them feel so dejected now is all they hear about is what they lost, and they're sitting there going,
mm.
but I learned how to do this, and I do this better than you do it, and I do this better than you do it. Why are
Yeah.
you only talking about how, oh, my life sucks? You know, I mean, we jumped on the idea that cell phones are the entire reason that scores are down. Only, our score. I mean, scores are down, but they're still way up from say 1985. Like
Yeah.
way, way up from 1985. Way astronomically up since 1965.
Yeah, yeah.
The
That's
people complaining about scores being down had lower scores than the kids today.
right, right. No, that's true.
Um, so like, and the only people that we don't ask about the kids' well-being is the kids. You
Yeah,
know, like nobody wants to talk about the possibility that having to do lockdown drills could affect one's mental health.
absolutely. Oh my, I think lockdown drills and just the state of our without I'm not,
Exactly.
whatever.
Oh,
We
you
have
can get as political as you
I
want on
know
my
I
show.
can, but I just for the
You don't
sake
have
of
to, but
consist, whatever. But I
right,
think there's just so much uncertainty, and when I reach them, when they disappear, and then when I reach
right,
out, and they're like, it's very frequently this sort of stress of, and I know it, right? Like I don't take it when they disappear things. I don't take it personally. I mean, I do a little bit because I'm just excited about stuff, right? And
right,
when you're not
right,
there, it's kind of disappointing because I'm like, I can see what you're capable of, right?
right.
But I think the times are complicated, and
Hmm.
it's an interest. Me and my dad's in his 80s, and he taught for 50 years, and he says, like people always say, "Oh, the kids today," and he's like, "No, the kids today are better than the, like it's
Yeah,
something every generation says, right?" We all say it. And I agree with
Oh,
that
like what
100%, right? Like my
one of the
my
things
my
that I'll yeah,
my students are as good as, if not better than they've ever been. But I do think
exactly.
that many of them are under stresses that are making it impossible to be who they could be at this moment. And that's
Right.
I don't know how to, I don't know how to solve that one in an hour and 15 minutes in a comics class in a week, right? Like that's a
I mean, you've got your physics background, so build a time machine and go help Jimmy Carter win re-election.
put the solar panels back on the White House.
Right.
There you go. Um,
Um, let me open up this comic again because
oh yeah, yeah. It
you were
was looked
talking
great,
about
but I don't know
wordless
what it is.
comics and this is I'm doing because it's cleaner. I'm doing it out of Comics Dementia, but this is a comic from Love and Rockets Volume 2,
Oh, all
Issue
right.
6 that we just talked about on our Love and Rockets book club. And
Yeah.
it caught my I mean, it caught our attention because leave it to Beto to decide I'm just going to do a 210 panel 4-page comic
Yeah. You may have me
and then
beat. I don't
kill
know.
it. And then kill it. It's amazing.
Yeah.
But you talked about the wordless comics and like
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh,
he
cool.
has he has almost a page worth
Yeah.
that
Yeah, that's great. I haven't seen this one.
yeah. Well, because I mean the non-Palomar stories don't get the same attention. This is a Roy story. Um, but yeah, no, I just wanted to show that off because there you go.
What is that in? Just out of.
The easiest way to get a hold of it right now is it's in the volume of Love and Rockets called Comics Dementia, which
Mm,
is the second volume of Beto stories that aren't Palomar stories.
got it. Cool. Very
Yeah,
cool. As somebody who I do a whole thing in my advanced class on regular grids in comics, and that would be a
yeah.
fabulous example to weave in.
Oh, it's so good. I'd never seen. I mean, I'm certain I'd seen it at least once before, but like it had not grabbed me until I
Yeah.
read it for yesterday's book club, and I went, "Oh my God!"
Yeah, yeah.
How do you take somebody whose work I love and make me love them even more? This,
Yes.
this.
I see that. I see that. That's very, very impressive. And I mean,
Um,
that's again coming back to the joy of comics is like, what does it mean to put, I don't know how many panels were on each page, but like
it
a
it
10 by.
was it was 5 by 11. So 55 panels per
Oh,
page,
it was
four
only that, it
pages.
looked even denser. So
Yeah,
I got him beat. But yeah,
I
55
believe it.
panels. What does it mean to have 55 panels? Like what are your storytelling choices?
Right.
What does it mean to use circles instead of rectangle? Like there's all
Yeah,
these things. I mean, comics are so boundless in what you can
they
try.
are. They
Um,
are.
it's such a great, and what's, I can say what's true for me is that how I think, how I'm trying to articulate my thinking and really the kind of thinking I can do changes depending on what form I'm working in. Like I have one chapter that's all circular uh, compositions for the new book, and I had to solve problems in such different ways.
Yeah.
And
That's what
it
Matt Madden talks about when he talks about putting he's like, I sometimes come up with a constraint before I come up with the idea.
right, and that I've tried to do that for the like each chapter has sort of a guiding one, and it's
Right.
sometimes hard to stick to, but it's one of the reasons I'm so impressed by Hayden Sherman. Like, I feel like,
Right.
he's just like, all right, I'm just gonna do this. I don't know how, I'd
Yeah,
love to
yeah.
see something about his process or their process.
No,
It's
that's actually I mean, on when I'm struggling with an idea, I sometimes write either a sonnet or a haiku, just because
mm,
then I have to cram it into this structured thing,
right. That's
you
comics,
know.
right?
Right.
That's
Um, so yeah. Uh, I'm going to ask you three more questions.
all right. I'm gonna answer
Um,
them.
because I don't want to take up all of your all well, I mean, it's coming up on lunchtime for you.
Ah,
Um, the first, and you can be shorter with this one because like normally I ask it way earlier when I want an in-depth answer, but I feel like we've jumped into your life and comics in media res. So tell me your comics biography. And like not bibliography, like tell me like the books you remember buying, the books you remember loving, the your experience that brought you to this point in terms of this is why I love comics, this is why I do comics, this is why I think in comics. Because
yeah. So,
more than almost anybody I've ever met, you do seem to like literally think in comics.
yeah, I don't know. I like them. I don't make
Right.
enough of them, but that's a life issue, not a. So let's see. I have a much older brother who has collected comics and read them to me. As a result, like Batman's my first word. Um, so there's that, right? There was around comics. I definitely I saw it with, like the literacy thing. I definitely for myself, like I know I read very early, and I definitely attribute comics to that. And I saw it with my older kid as well, like just pouring over comics every day. Like you just pick it up, right? So that's the start. I always like to draw and I like to make things like three-dimensional, like things out of paper. Like we didn't have a lot of stuff, but I had a lot of paper and a lot of things to draw with, and like to make.
Right.
I don't know. And I made an work Apollo rocket, all the stages out of paper and construction
Oh,
and
nice.
tape, and like I like doing stuff, and I like to draw, and I like to make things that look like things. I've always not much for like color and abstract. I'm like things that look like things. I don't know why, but
Right.
and then so I made some superhero stuff with friends when I was little, like, whatever, whenever you do those things, third grade, fourth grade, something like that, fifth grade. And then in eighth grade, we had locker partners. Um, and I thought, well, what would be kind of fun to make our locker ours, right? So I was like, I sat down on a Saturday or something, and I was drawing stuff, and I drew like the powers and tools of Locker Man, right? So it's like, so it's this half
That's
page
that I,
comic.
I I saw that in your superhero syllabus.
Yeah, right. Yeah, he's in Unflattening. He's got a good post life here.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but it was just like, what
Locker
can I
Man Returns, is that your next
Yeah, maybe it'd be easier to draw than what I'm doing now. But uh uh so that was just this kind of one-off thing. And then I was like, well, this is pretty fun. What else, what does his adventures look like? And all of a sudden, that first year I drew 9 issues of this comic. They're short, but nine
right,
issues. It was all inked in big boards, and I did all the stuff, right? So
right,
teaching myself all this stuff about comics making. And the pace slowed down. They got longer, more serious, and like my sports stuff took more and more time. So it just didn't have as much time. But I still, I got 16 is the last one I did, which I don't know if it's 20. I don't know. One of the issues, this 15th issue was like double length. It was like 80 pages or something.
wow.
It's a lot for me.
It was a graphic novella.
Something, yeah. Um, so so that's my making origins. I mean, we're reading them. I feel like because of my brother, we have Batman comics from mid 70s to now, like
Right.
every Batman and Detective issue, and lots of others. So I was reading lots. I'm a huge fan of Marshall Rogers.
Okay.
I just picked up a book about his life, which I know nothing about. I think, but something about the sort of architectural designs of his pages and stuff definitely imprinted on me. Because you asked that as well.
Right.
Certainly, a lot of Frank Miller's, like when I was making Lockerman, The Dark Knight Returns had come out, and I had stuff for like TV screens and little panels, like all that kind of stuff which you don't see a lot of right now, right?
Howard Chaykin did that first.
All right,
Right.
I
Now, I
wasn't.
only bring that up because Tom King tells the story of when he met Howard Chaykin and he thought he was joking with him, but apparently he was too dry because he said, I love your American flag and how you did the TV thing like Miller did in Batman. And Chaykin got a little pissed off at him.
Oh, well, rightfully so in that case. He should know that. But yeah, I wasn't reading American
And
Flag as a
yeah, and Tom did know
10-year-old.
that, but he thought Howard would know that he was joking, so he had to
Oh,
find
I see. He
somebody to
thought he.
go and
Ah,
like,
yeah. And I missed that part. Yeah.
yeah.
Um, yeah, I know Chaikin's work, but not when I'm
Yeah.
younger. Um, and
Howard's a cool guy.
cool. I don't
I
know
like him.
much about him.
I've had him on a couple of times.
Cool. Yeah, no, he's a master. I've been
Yeah.
showing his. I don't know. Maybe you know the answer. The lettering in his comics, which I show when I talk about sound effects. I don't know if that's him or Bruce.
I'm pretty certain it's Bruzenek.
Is it? It's
I know
some
that
fantastic.
Bruzenek is the only letterer he'll work with
Mm,
because they work, you
yeah.
know, he speaks very highly of him.
Yeah, cool. Well, it's
Yeah.
fascinating stuff. But
Right.
so yeah, so I made that. I went to college, as I said. I couldn't I made a superhero comic with a roommate that I never finished. It was his idea, and I drew some pages of it. I did a philosophy independent study and laid out an entire 4-issue comic about sort of metaphysical thing, which I quite liked. I wish I could have, but I drew one of the 4 issues. It just took forever, right? It's
Right.
wasn't a realist like what I teach my students was not what I was doing, right? I teach my
Right.
students make short comics. I give you lots of little prompts, but I was like, oh, I've got this 96-page thing. I'm going to draw it, and like it's too much unless that's your life and you've got background in it, which I didn't, right?
Right.
I mean, I did, but not enough.
I mean, come
Um,
on. Kirby could have done it in a month.
Kirby, right? Oh man, when I did this comic for Nature on climate change in 2015 for the Paris talks, and it's not very long, right? It's not very long, but it was so much density of information and so many moving parts right up until the end. And I know the last night, like I'd saved all the hands because I knew I could, like I know how to draw hands. I don't know how to draw this about climate change. I got to research it, but hands, right? I can just do it. It was
Right.
like 2 in the morning, and I was like, I got to finish this by dawn. And I'm like, what would, I was like looking at my band, which I don't have a wristband that says it, but I'm like, what would Jack Kirby do? And like, he could do this. So somehow
Right.
I'm going to get through it. Um, yeah, that guy, superhuman. So, yeah, I don't know, sort of random storytelling here.
No, that's why I like
Like,
this question.
yeah, no, it's a great question. My comics, slide into the background for undergrad. I spent a couple years on the tennis tour, and it's interesting. I would take notes and I would like sketch things about like, I was on the bottom. This like it's called the satellites at the time. So you'd meet these kind of journeyman people or young people who are trying to make it, and none of them are gonna, maybe one of them is gonna make it out of there, but most of them
Right.
aren't. But I would talk to them and I'd get some interviews and I had ideas like, what if I do a comic about these guys on the tour that are
Right.
curious characters. It never went anywhere, but I was still
Could have
thinking
sold it in
about it.
Japan.
What's that?
Could have sold it in
I
Japan.
sure I could. I mean, I would have had to make it. That was the hard part.
Well, yeah, there is that issue.
There is that issue.
But they have a greater appreciation for human sports stories than we
Yeah,
seem to
oh,
have in
for
the United
sure, for
States.
sure. Yeah, no, I mean, it was just like, so it was always on my mind, right? I'm still reading comics, I'm still thinking about them, but there's nothing finished in that time period, or very little finished in that time period. Actually, somewhere around there, my brother had written a sort of like a fable story of Superman. It's quite good. And then we got the idea to do it as a like to adapt it into a comic. Didn't need to be, but that pushed me in ways I don't talk about it a lot. I should, because it very it's still sort of Superman, but it's really about these metaphors and a lot of mixing of pop culture images into it, which definitely influenced me a lot. Um, But anyway, time passes. I get a master's in math art and I do some art stuff. And my brother asked me to run a magazine with him. So I run a magazine about Detroit art for 6 years. In the middle of that, I get asked to be in this political art show around 2004. I make the comics I mentioned before. Turns into me making a comic on games and art in 2006. And then I go to Columbia in 2008 and start making comics as a doctorate. So.
Right.
I think that's more story than you needed.
That works. We'll get more the next time you come on. I mean, that's always
Yeah, all
my
right.
goal. All right. I have two questions that I always close with.
All
Um,
right.
I'm really curious for your answers to both of them too, because I think that
Sounds
they're
like
going to
pressure.
be no, they shouldn't be pressure.
Yeah.
Um, I've been doing this podcast. This is my like fifth year now, and
Yeah.
I like
300 and
well 800 if
or
you count
800.
300 interviews.
300 interviews, 800, right? It's a
But
lot of.
then you got the book clubs and the regular
No, that's
episodes and the round
impressive
tables and
dedication.
um but I pinch myself on a regular basis because I feel like I'm living in the twilight zone. The number of things that I get to do or conversations I get to have or things that I mean recently I, we had two cars break down in the span of a week and like
Hmm.
we needed to replace them and because of a connection that I had only because of this podcast we wound up with two cars on
Oh,
Saturday
that's good.
afternoon
Yeah.
inside of just barely inside of our comfort zone, you
Yeah.
know. But it never would have happened without this. I wouldn't have had the starting point to find, somebody that I knew purely because I'm in comics and like had gone to a panel that they had done and became friends and I got to know well enough that I'm like, they seem to have a guy for everything. So when our
Hmm.
world was falling apart, it's like, hey, do you have a guy? And it turns out that their wife, who I also knew, her brother
Hmm.
managed a car dealership that their uncle owned. And I'm like, well, that's a starting point, and it wound up being an ending point too.
Hmm.
So my question has become, tell me a surreal because I found that everybody in comics has these a surreal experience, a thing that like you're just even thinking about it, you're like, wow, I got to do that, or that happened to me, or whatever. One of those things that if you hadn't been involved in comics, never would have happened. That you just, you can't help but go, oh, cool.
Wow. I don't know where I'd start with that. Like
Well, I mean, that's
all
why
of
you have to
this. I'm
come
having
back.
this conversation,
That's
right? Like
true.
I get to talk
I,
to.
I mean, you are the first person ever to do your PhD thesis as a comic. I don't think I hammered on that when we talked about it at the beginning. I asked what the thesis was, but you're the first PhD. For that matter, I think it was when I was talking to Damian Duffy that he said, yeah, the biggest reason that my entire PhD thesis wasn't a comic, because about half of his was in comic form, was Nick beat me to doing a full thesis and I just wanted to get done. And it's like,
Yeah, I
I
saved
can
him a
write
lot of effort,
faster
I
than I
think.
can draw.
Yes, he should be grateful.
He was.
Yeah, the most real man, I don't know. Like I don't know about surreal. I mean, surreal. I mean, it's a
You can
really
use whatever
interesting.
term you want.
No, no, no. I like it.
Yeah.
I mean, I really see it as a like a gift.
Yeah.
Like it's like what this is not the answer you maybe want. I don't know. We'll try.
There's no such thing as an answer I
Well,
don't want.
fair, fair. But I sorry. I gotta articulate it. It's not that hard to do once I remember what I'm saying here. I mean, first of all, you make a work, you don't know that anybody's going to read it, right?
Right.
And second, like unflattening gets mistitled all the time. Unflattering is the
Well,
funniest one, right? It's the
that that
funniest one.
that's that's what it auto corrects to.
Autocorrects, not my phone, it goes the other way. But But most people, right, it goes to there. So whatever, that's funny. I can deal with that. No big deal. But the one I dislike, the one I stop people when they say it is unflattened, right? Because it implies something finished. And as a good Deweyan pragmatist, since we talked about John Dewey earlier,
Yeah,
um, this is the point of the book is that it's not a finished thing.
right.
We're always like, what do I know, right? Like this is my attempt that year, those years that I made it. I would do something different if I did it today, right? Because I've learned a lot. And I'm just me. I'm just one limited perspective. So I'm very careful to get people to say it's an ing. It's an ing because as soon as you stop, because
That
you think,
mistake I have never made.
no,
I
no,
think
I'm
once or twice I've accidentally not corrected my spell check when typing it to somebody,
it's all good. It's
but
all
I
good. But it's
generally
like,
catch it.
no, it's not a but it's like, this is an ongoing thing. And when you think you've got it right, that's when you're stuck. Even if you're the best ideas and the best things, circumstances change, your understanding changes. So all that to say is like the best gift I've gotten from this is I've gotten to talk to so many people. I mean, I've traveled, I've done conversations like this. I've talked to school kids, graduate people, professor people, business people. I didn't never expected to talk to business people, and I've talked to a lot of them. And it's all of those conversations, one, help me try to articulate what I'm doing because they ask me questions that I haven't thought of. But also, like, they're different, they have perspectives that I hadn't, so it's really helped me learn about stuff. Which isn't
Right.
surreal, right? That's not a surreal thing, but it is a
I mean, it is because of the breadth that you get.
yes, the breadth is it's changed. So a student will say, "How did you get unflattened?" And I'm like, "Okay, no, I'm not. I'm just a guy who was sitting in his apartment trying to think of things." But the conversation I have with you, who knows something that I don't know, and I think it's important to stress that. I think we're talking to educators here. I think there's times where students tend to think the grown up or the teacher knows the stuff and they have to
Oh,
get it from
I
you.
try to disabuse them of that notion as quickly as
Right.
I
Well, that's
can.
good. That makes you a good teacher, right? Makes you a good teacher. But it's hard. It's hard not to slip into that
Oh
role
yeah.
too. So, I feel like this has kept me honest. I mean, talking to high school students can be one of the more nerve-wracking things, right? Because it's like, they're gonna really care about some random guy who made comics that there's no characters or action in, right? Like, um, so I mean, those have been good. I think that's been life-changing for me, and it's still kind of amazing to get conversations with people around the world about your work. It's not what you expect. It might be what you hope, right? But you don't expect it.
Yeah.
So that and then of creators, I don't know. I can think of some funny stories with creators that surprise me, but that might
We'll
be.
save them for next time.
We can save them. I'll save it for next
Yeah.
time. I'll tell you my
I
math-action story.
insist that there be a next time, unless you
All
email
right.
me later and say, actually, Tad, I hated it. Didn't want to
No,
say that on
no.
the air because I wanted to be
I will
nice.
not say it on the air. But if you send me those Beto pages, I definitely.
I can do that. Um, so my final question and one of my favorite questions to ask. Um, this has been my final question, possibly since the first interview, and if not, I think by the time Karen was on, I was asking it. Um, Tell me something you love, preferably a comic, but we don't have rules. Preferably storytelling, but again with the rules. But something that you love and you wish there were more people around you who had experienced it so you had more people to talk about it with.
Ah, that's a great question. I like that. I can think of a lot of things.
Well, you're allowed to give
Just
me as many as
one?
you feel like. As many as you
Oh,
feel like.
oh, crap. The blank page. As, something I love. I mean, I'm thinking of comics right now, right? Like I've got a
Yeah,
bunch. And you already brought up Absolute Wonder Woman,
so
which
good. Have you
I
read
happen to
Absolute
have
Martian Manhunter?
equally. I mean,
Yeah.
Yes, almost equally. I think I feel more joy in reading. I think I'm a huge fan of Dennis Camp. So Dennis, if
Yeah.
you're listening, which you're probably not, but if you are,
He's been on.
well
I
then
had him
I
on
don't know, but
before he
Dennis,
got cool.
I'm a big fan.
Yeah,
I'm a big fan. So but it's a little less like joyful. I mean,
I, I'm
that's the nature of
autistic
it, right?
and I and like so I'm waiting to see what happens with the son because I'm pretty certain the son is autistic and there's a certain level of neurodiversity that just the Martian has to begin with, so it
Yeah.
just hits me in a lot of ways. But you're right, there's more joy in in Wonder Woman.
Yeah, I mean, those two books though, if you were to like replace their current versions, their regular versions, I would be kind of happy with that. With those two, they're the only of
Right.
the.
Right. There. Though
I
I love what Tom's been doing with Wonder Woman too. So I mean, I'm even more
I
Wonder
haven't
Woman in
read it, so I
general
can't.
than
So maybe it's equally. I just I'm it's not a
yeah.
judgment.
They're very, very different.
I'm sure. But
But
she's
but
yeah, again, I bought this book because I saw some previews of Hayden Sherman's work on the
right.
Batman series, which blew my mind.
Yeah.
It
Hayden
felt
Sherman does great work.
it felt a little bit it's not anything like Marshall Rogers, yet it struck me the way that Rogers' work strikes me. I
Right.
mean, there's something about its precision and cartooniness, and just such interesting compositions. And as a maker, like composition is kind of the heart of what I'm in. There's no pages that repeat in Unflattening, right? There's no
Right.
repeated composition. So Sherman's every page, I'm just like marveling at how they constructed it. Just how did that work? How did your brain work? And then at the same time, I mean, we're big. My family is my boy is Odysseus. We're big fans of listening to the few times we drive distances, we listen to Greeking Out. So reading this with my kid who reads, both those things and Percy Jackson, right? Like getting into the Greek mythology, and it's really a treat. And I feel like Kelly Thompson has brought to life a Wonder Woman, as I'm teaching the superhero class too, where like part of I think one of our mantras for the superhero class comes from Ben Saunders' book, which really struck why I think I like them. The wish that things were otherwise, and I feel like that hope that, not that superheroes can be. Um, I feel like her book has really like that character, who's, deals with a lot, right? She's bloody every time her arm dissolves or but she's just such a force for like hope and determination. And it's really kind of a joyful thing for me to read it. And I'm enjoying the visual, right? So comics have to operate on a lot of levels,
Oh yeah.
on a narrative level, on an aesthetic level, on all these different things. And I feel like that it strikes me so much. And then I'm just joyful. Like, and there's other things, I don't want to speak ill of other books, but, I like Batman comics, right? But I'll tell you what I don't like about Batman comics. So many freaking people die every issue of it, like 10,000 people killed and he saves one person. And I'm like, I'm
Yeah.
not interested, like I still like it because I'm a sucker for it, right? But I'm like, I'm more interested when, like, yes, stakes can be high, but I think the stakes stop being high when you're killing off a third of your population every issue, right? Like,
Right.
so I appreciate this that I don't know the death toll, I'm sure isn't zero, but it's not
She
massive.
tries really hard.
Yeah, so I don't know. That's it just you brought it up already, and it's a beautiful
Yeah.
book, and it
It
it gives
is.
me hope about. I just
It
like that.
is.
Like I feel like, boy, if I knew if that was a real human, or real whatever she is, right? That would be really a joyful thing to have in the world.
It would be.
So yeah.
And I think you actually just pitched it better than I ever have. So I'm actually glad that you chose it
Oh, well, good.
because
I mean, I
the
chose it because you brought it up, and it's sitting next to me, so I looked
I mean
over.
literally in my head I'm already composing the email to Kelly to tell her to listen to at least the last few minutes of this episode to hear you talk about
Oh,
absolute Wonder
and
Woman
I
because
confess I'm not super familiar with her work prior.
uh
I had read Birds of Prey. Is that what it
Birds of
is?
Prey.
There was some
That
there was some conceptual there was some crazy things where Barda is like grabbing the panel border and
yeah,
jumping through, and I was like, okay, I'm buying that, and it was super fun. I
that
haven't gotten into the series just because I haven't, but just because I
right.
can.
No, there was
But
some good
it was
stuff in Birds of
smart.
Prey. Black
She's
Cloak that she does
oh
with
yeah,
Meredith McLaren, I
all right.
adore.
Yeah, well,
Um,
she's phenomenal. I think it's
yeah,
I should read
she did a
more.
run on Black Widow that was out of this
Oh, all
world.
right. Yeah.
Yeah, Kelly is fantastic.
She
Um,
clearly is fantastic. I mean, this is just one of the most like we just like it. I like all the characters and I
and
love that
another
I
one of
can
my
read it with
favorite
my
people to talk
kid.
to in comics. She's been on a few
Yeah.
times and
Cool.
totally one of my favorite people to
Oh,
talk to.
awesome. No, I love reading it to my kid, and I feel like there are other superhero comics I wouldn't mind reading to her, but there's often things, like I said, 10,000 people dying or whatever. I'm like,
Right.
I don't know if
I
I
don't want to have to answer those questions today.
Yeah, I mean, she's not little and but still, this both feels like we're
Yeah, but
learning something.
leave it to the 5 or 6 year old to go. But Daddy, he saved the one person, and all those people died,
Yeah,
and you got to go. Uh, you weren't supposed to notice that.
yeah, right. And I don't know. I mean, whatever. They could
Right.
both handle it. But anyway,
Hey,
that's a book I
hey,
really love, and
yeah,
I wasn't going
it's
to pick
such a good book.
anything from my superhero class, and I was like, I like this so much. Like Watchmen's I did pick it because I felt like I never teach it, so whatever, I'll teach it. But I'm kind of mixed because it's going to take up a lot of my time. And we are having so much fun reading old superhero, even ones that
Right.
are, they're kind of dopey, but we just are having a good time reading them.
I will toss out, um, even if you want like a superhero deconstruction, which is one of the great powers of Watchmen.
Yeah.
Both Astro City and Jeff
Oh,
Lemire's
wait.
Black Hammer are
All right. I haven't read that.
are
I have the
really good
Astro City Metro
superhero.
book sitting next to me right now. I
Exactly.
read those with my kid too.
Are
You could
such
just teach
great.
that as a superhero class. Just Kurt Busiek.
That's what I'm saying. That's
You
what I'm
could just
saying
make that your class.
is I think you can get almost everything that you get out of from a teaching standpoint. I think that you could get almost everything that you get out of Watchmen from either of those books,
I think
but
you're probably right. And honestly,
it
one of
would
the
be a lot more fun and a lot
yeah, I mean,
like less time required.
right. I kind of think that I don't actually. I mean, I love Watchmen as a
Mhm.
structural thing on how comics work. I don't actually, as I think about it, I'm like, it's not actually a superhero comic at all. It has
It's a superhero deconstruction.
yeah, and even that,
Yeah.
it's but it'll be fun. We'll have a good
Yeah.
time.
I mean, I adore Alan Moore, but I refer to him as the Dickens of comics. I have to
Hmm,
be in the mood. I have to be
hmm,
ready to really dig in because it's not going to come easy. It's not going to come quickly.
yeah,
And in the moment, half the time, I'm not going to feel like it was worth the effort.
hmm. Well, I might
An
disagree
hour
there, so
later,
I'll leave
well,
it.
no, no, like an hour later, a day later, a
Yeah,
month later, I'll feel like it was worth the effort. But in the moment,
yeah,
I won't always feel like it's worth the effort.
yeah.
When I spend 4 hours on one issue of From Hell, which I did a few times, it's like, really? Did I just spend all of my entire evening reading one issue of From Hell? And like the next day, when it's still sticking with me,
Yeah,
then I don't regret it. But like,
yeah. Well, I'm always learning something from him,
oh yeah,
I feel like Thompson and Sherman, I'm learning something from them, and it's joyful, which
yeah,
I'll take for a win, a
oh yeah,
high
no,
win.
no.
We need some joy in our lives.
I will. I even read a GI Joe comic because Kelly Thompson wrote it.
Oh, well, I don't know that I've ever read one, so that's
I had never read one, but she wrote a Scarlet miniseries, and like there are a handful of people that if they write it, like I've got a longer list of people that I'll read all of their independent work but I
Yeah.
won't necessarily do anything licensed. And then there's a handful of people, and Kelly's one of them, that it's like, if you're gonna write GI Joe, I guess I'm reading GI Joe.
Well, high praise. This ended on
So
uh,
thank you so much,
yeah,
Nick.
thanks for
You
having
are
me. What a
welcome
treat.
back anytime.
All right. I'll make it
If you
less
ever
than
read a book that
300.
you want to talk about, hit me up. I'll read it too, and we'll talk about it.
Ah, that'd be fun.
Um, and like, I definitely wanna see your new book when it's done. I want to come talk to
Me
you about
too.
your new book when it's done, that sort of thing.
Yeah,
And I understand it's a long process.
it
Stick
is.
around for a minute after we're done. But for Nick Sousanis, this has been 22 panels, and we will see you after the next page.